1 second. Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, fellow beekeepers. Welcome to what will probably be the last live at the hive in 2024. The temperature is pretty low today. I have actually got a thermometer out here, which at the moment is 12 degrees, which is probably a little bit too cold for handling bees. But if you leave the bees open too long, then you're going to ask for problems. So just a brief inspection, if indeed you have to at all. A little bit about what's been happening. Since the last live at the hive, I've actually bought this piece of ground now off my neighbour. So you can say that I've saved live at the hive for the nation. Whether you want to give me a medal for that or not is entirely up to you, but anything would be greatly received. One of the problems I had during the summer was the Lawsonia hedge that a neighbour put up about 15 years ago had grown so high that it was blocking some of the light out from the apiary. So what I've done is I've got up there and I've topped them. Not only that, there's a little bit of ground next to this one, which I've also got, and in the last week or so, I've pollarded a willow tree, and I'm clearing the ground so that I can put a shed up, so that I can store my stuff rather than keep it out in the open like I've got here. So if anybody would like to donate me a shed or come and help put it up, I'd appreciate that immensely. Now I mentioned the temperature, and before anybody else says it, this is probably the first live at the hive where I'm not actually showing my braces, but I can assure you I've got them on. Otherwise my jeans will fall down. It really is quite nippy. So what have we got today? Oh, Steve, I think you wanted to mention the varroa day, didn't you? The varroa resistance day. Do you want to do it now or a bit later?
We can do it a bit later, Roger. Yeah, and I'll post something up on screen about it as well.
Okay, good stuff. Right, so what I'm going to do now, I've been asked to do just a short demonstration on trickling oxalic acid, or apibioxors now we're now supposed to use. I have to say I don't prepare anything myself. Somebody who takes my honey does it for me, and they turned up on my doorstep a couple of days ago with a bottle, and they have used the proprietary syrup, or whatever it is. It is much thicker than ordinary sugar syrup, so I don't quite know how I'm going to get on, but we'll give it a crack and see what we got. Now, when you're trickling oxalic acid, you need some form of syringe, because what you do is you trickle every seam of bees, and you give each one 5 milliliters. These are the syringes that I like. They're nice and easy for me to handle, but if you've only got the odd a colony or two, then perhaps something that you might have got from the vets for your dog or your cat will do just as well, and of course it won't cost you anything. So if you've never we'll put that over there somewhere. If you've never trickled oxalic acid before, I suggest that you do a trial run, because I've seen ever so many people, especially at Whisper Green, the beginners, if you push this too hard, of course you squirt it out, and it's supposed to come out as a trickle, not as if it's a fire hose. So what you do is you count the number of seams of bees, and then fill your syringe up. Let's say there's five seams of bees, so you put 25 milliliters in your syringe, and then try and trickle 5 milliliters on each one. Now there are one or two tricks that will help you, which I'll try and go through as we go through, but I'm not going to be spending too long on it. Before then, perhaps I'd better mention, and it's not often taught to beginners especially, that during the winter, bees cluster, but they cluster at different rates depending on the temperature. The colder the temperature, the tighter they cluster. So they might come down perhaps from 5 seams to 3 or 4. The warmer it gets, the more they break cluster, and sometimes you can see them over a strong colony over all the frames during the winter, especially if you've got a glass quilt. So you need to be just a little bit careful of that. Also, the colder it is, if they've got plenty of food, they'll be down in the space below the food. If the weather is or temperature rather is warmer, and they're broken cluster, then they could be right up to the tops of the frames. So if it's cold, then you need a fairly good flashlight, so you can just shine down between the combs, so you can see the bees, so you know how many seams you've got. So I think that's probably just about all. So we'll get into the hive that we're going to do here now. Okay. I better just mention that if you've got things in your shed and that sort of thing, during the winter, of course, smoke or fuel can get damp, so your smoker might perhaps be either difficult to light or go out on you. So I don't look particularly stupid. I actually set mine off half hour or so ago. Oh, incidentally, even though the temperature's down at 12ish, it's 2 o'clock, just gone 2 o'clock now. I took the dogs out for a walk at about midday, so a couple of hours ago, and would you believe a bumblebee just flew straight past me about head height. So I only want one hive tool, not much point having two, is there? So I'll just give a little bit of a smoke in there. Spider, look. Spider. The bees right up there. Now I went to my own bees with the feed holes open. Always have done. At the Whisper Green Teaching Apiary, we've done half and half because we are a teaching apiary. Now I know some people put insulation and tiles and that sort of thing over the top. I don't do that. You know, it's just what you get used to, what you like, I suppose. But I've always found this okay. So let's just have a look. Now, whilst we're opening it, there's several things to do. There's the bees. Look, the queen is unlikely to be on there. Now, straight away, look at this sort of area here and see what the food situation is. I can look down there and I can see sealed food all the way. It's fairly easy to count on this colony here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9. Yeah, there's almost 10 teams of bees on that. So that's actually quite a big colony. Now, when I was talking a few minutes ago about temperature and bees clustering, these have clearly broken cluster. If it's a frosty time, then there will probably be down in that sort of area there. Now, one thing you really ought to do is make sure that one don't get up your sleeve. Oh, there you go. Oh. Yeah, so 10, I need 50, which I think is a maximum where we should be giving them. Now let's just see how this works. That really is thick. And I don't mean unintelligent either. 50, crikey. This is hard work, this is. I'll suggest either if you have proprietary syrup, I would suggest that you either water it down or make up some specially. Anyway, this is not going to do. This is not really going to replicate what you folk are going to have at home. Right. Okay. I go down in line with the seams, not at an angle like that, because you'll end up squirting it over the top bars. So dribble it down. 1, 2, 3. They really have broken cluster, haven't they? Now, of course, you will get a little bit used to this, obviously. And this is where it's handy to do a trial run outside the hive. Right, that's it. I'll put the ground ball back. And away we go. Right. Now I'll leave that out. I will fill it in afterwards with the details. Okay, that's it. That's done. And I've got one sting me because it got caught in beyond my watch strap. So I'll put that on there. So that is oxalic acid. It's nice and easy to do. It really doesn't take very long at all. And, you know, it's the sort of thing that we actually did it with for Green Teaching April last weekend, I think. Was it Martina last weekend? Yeah, last weekend. So that's it. Now we'll just have a look at one or two other things. The wind is getting up. I suspect that the air temperature will drop just a little bit on the way down. We're up to 13 now. Right, there's a couple of things. I hadn't asked Martina to do it, but when I came down here mid-morning, well, late morning actually. It was about 11:30, I think, just before I took the dogs out. If I take this off, it'll be easier. I saw there were still wasps trying to get into hives. They were repelled, but that is a bit of a problem. In what I call the old days when I was young, very rarely had wasps after early November. Adult wasps, that is. But now they're living a lot longer. Sometimes right into the new year. I'm assuming it's because it's a bit warmer than it was. And the harder frost, of course, used to take the wasps out. Right now, that can give you a little bit of a problem. Perhaps not so much with single brood chambers, but if you're either on double brood chamber or brood and a half, perhaps, or what people are doing these days, which is putting a super of food underneath the brood. If you get the timing wrong and the bees don't take the food up, of course, what can happen is the wasps can go in unchallenged and just grab what they want, and you'll probably lose quite a lot of food that way. That's one of the reasons that I don't advocate putting a super underneath. I can't really see much point in it anyway, but if that's what people do and they get away with it, that's okay. But I don't think it's the sort of thing I would recommend to a beginner beekeeper. It needs to be somebody who's experienced and can tell when they've got to, when it's too late for the bees to move up. Right, something else I want to do, which is a colony over there, is just to heft, because we're told to heft, but without much explanation of what we're doing. So if I go over here, Martina, if you don't mind following me. Please. I'm just going to tell you what I do. Other people might do it differently. Lifting is just lifting the hive occasionally during the winter. Don't do it every week or something like that, because you won't notice that much change. So hefting is just seeing how much the bees lose food during the winter. That's really what it's about. So what you need to do, I think, is to work out what's actually in the hive and the hive itself. Not so much these days, but certainly 20, 30, 40 years ago, and I've still got some here, when hives were made out of different sorts of wood for various reasons, usually economies of wartime. So certainly anything made up until the mid-1950s could have been made out of anything. And I've seen brood chambers that weigh twice as much as cedar ones. So you need to know what your hive is made of. If you just got a new one, let's say like this one is, then they're all going to weigh within shouting distance of the same, sort of half a pound, half a kilo, whatever, within the same. So you need to do that. You need to be aware of the age of your brood combs, because if you've got fairly old brood combs, the colony is going to appear to weigh an awful lot more than if everything is new. Let's say you put a swarm on foundation and it's the first year, it could weigh several pounds less than one that's been in there 2, 3, 4 years. What I tend to do is lift both sides, and the reason for that is that, especially if you use ApiGuard, what you can find is that you put the ApiGuard over the brood nest in the autumn, as we're told, move away from it, so migrate their brood nest over to one side or the other. Then if the beekeeper doesn't put it back central, what you end up with is the bees one side, the food the other side. So one side will weigh an awful lot more than the other. That's one thing. So that's why I do both sides. I have had people say to me they just put luggage scales under, and they know how much the hive weighs because they've weighed it, and they can tell how much food there is in there. Well, think about it. It's not quite as simple as that. So that's something you ought to be aware of. One thing which is a problem, or can be a problem, I think it's a wasp just gone try to get in there. Yeah. One thing you need to be aware of is if you live in or you're in an area where there's ivy, an ivy flow, ivy granulates very, very quickly and solidly. And the bees can't use it when they're in tight cluster because they can't get the moisture to liquefy it. So although it weighs quite a lot, it could be that there's only a small amount of food that's available for the bees. So you need to be aware of that. So I think that's about all from me. So I'm going to go into this one here. So there's no point hefting it with a roof on because all the roofs will certainly mine look. If you look round here, they're all different types. You've got a fairly light one there. Look, you've got a heavier one here, and there's a big old 8-inch one over there, and okay. Something else you ought to be aware of is if you're hefting from the back, you need to be aware of the pivot points of your hive, because if you're out here, let's say, it's going to appear a much different weight than if the pivot point is back here somewhere. So you need to be aware of all these sort of things. So I'm just going to lift that up now, and that is still pretty heavy. That side. Same with that side. That's all you need to do. Just lift it off the ground like that, and I'm okay with that. I haven't got a problem, but I am just going to lift the back, and that is pretty heavy. So I'm okay with that. Certainly into February anyway. One thing I didn't say is that I think I've got 25 colonies here. I have not fed one of them this autumn, not one. We fed about 50% at the teaching apiary, and when I say 50%, we've got 22 full colonies there at the moment and 23 nukes. Yes, the nukes we fed most of them, but certainly the full colonies we only fed about half of them. So anyway, that one is good. That, by the way, is one of the benefits of what one might term locally adapted bees. I do feed my bees, and you can see the feed cans over there. But last year I fed some of them, not all of them, but not very much. And what I don't like is the telling beekeepers that a colony of bees needs X amount of food to get through the winter, because that might suit an experienced beekeeper, but it may be misleading for a beginner, especially if, as I say, half of it is ivy honey. So that is hefting. I'm going to put that back. I don't think I need to go into any of the other hives at all. Let's just have a look at, there's like a double nuke here. This one was, as you probably saw from one of the earlier live at the hives, or is it lives at the hive? I don't know. Somebody suggested it should be love at the hive, but I'm a bit too old for that sort of thing. Well, I think I am. Anyway, these were two fairly small nukes that came from Wisford Green Teaching Apiary, which is about 5 miles as a fly crows in that direction there. So they weren't going to go back. Brought them here and united them. So we've got a united colony here. Quite how it's doing, I don't know. I'll tell you what, Martina. Do you mind if we just open it up and see what they've done? Now, normally, what I'd expect them to do is what's trying to get in there. Look, and it's gone in there. Normally, what they do is sort of what's called chimney, which is go up through there with the brood area. Of course, if they're only in one box, then they're confined to that area there. But naturally, they would like to do the do the sort of chimney, so you get a narrow, long a brood area. And of course, it is the brood area where bees are going to cluster. They can't cluster on food, and this may be one of the reasons why we have some of the problems that we have at the moment with bees dying with plenty of food on. It may just be, I'm not saying this is right, but it may just be that because the bees can't really cluster properly because they can't get heads in empty cells, that they succumb. I don't know. Yeah, let's just have a brief look. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to a beginner, but I consider as a sort of teacher that I should be able to get away, because, you know, quite frankly, if you can't see anything, you don't really know. All you've got is what somebody tells you or what's in a book. Now, one thing I have skipped over is that this was, I can't remember quite when it was put together. It may not have got it. I was hoping that I'd have the record sheet in there. They might not have organised their nest quite as they would want. I'm hoping it's still going to be alive. Right, okay, let's our smoker's still there. So what I'll do is I'll just break open, well, not much point smoking that, but I'll just break this open first, see what we got. We got bees right up here, look. Right, now if you can look in there and you can see them as calm as that, you know that they're queen right. You know they're queen right. So there are bees on only 2 frames, but they were 2 weak nukes. So we're used for queen rearing or queen mating rather, as we do it with Wisford Green. I'll just give them a little bit of smoke, and what I will do is I'll split the I'll just split the box and see what we got. Now, there may be some in the seam, or they may just be up in there, but they, like I say, they were both weak colonies. Oh no, look at that, look. A broken cluster as well. Yeah, so they shouldn't have a problem wintering. And in lifting that up, I knew that was quite heavy. if you like, I'll just take some frames at the top and just show you what they're up to. I certainly wouldn't, well, an experienced beekeeper, you're okay, but I certainly, as a beginner, wouldn't suggest that you start doing this. Much better to learn on somebody else's bees, isn't it? But you see what they've done. What I said. They've gone up to the middle. Yeah. Some people might think that I'm giving quite a lot of smoke here. There's a reason for that. Because there's a reason for that. Because when it's cold, the bees are sort of semi-comatose, and it takes them, in my experience, anywhere between perhaps 20 and 30 seconds to get enough air into their system to get up to speed again. And then sometimes they get a bit defensive. It's not their fault. All right, there's a little bit of food there, look. Incidentally, there's some liquid food there. And there's some pollen there. Now let's just see, is that pollen or bee bread? Oh no, it's not. Ah, this seems heavy, look. Just moving them around. Now they've got liquid food here. Now that's something that sorry? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's something that I've noticed when I've taken bees out of free living situation during the winter. I mean, obviously they haven't been foraging for that, and I think what they do, but I may be wrong, I think what they do is go and forage within the hive and bring it to where they were. Right. Do you mind, Martina, going and getting my torch? Because I've got a sneaking suspicion I can see eggs down in there. Do my torch over there, please. This, folks, proves that this is a real live presentation. No, it's the usual shine in the base of the cells. I didn't think it was going to be, but always worth checking. And I think right now for this little colony, bearing in mind they are locally adapted bees. I think this will be okay, certainly to the end of January. That cell there, Martina, is it an egg? Do you want me to show him? Hang on. Anybody spot the queen? Sorry? Yeah, there's eggs there. Yeah, very definitely eggs there. And there's what was laying them. There's a little patch around there, Martina. Okay, right, that's good. That's good. I'm really pleased with that. With our queen mating nukes, very often at the end of the season, they're all over the place. You can get some that are very strong, and you can get others that are weak for whatever reason. They might have been made up late, and all sorts of things like that. So what very often happens is the the weaker one, we'll put the queen in another colony, or perhaps let a member have her, and then unite. On one occasion, we united 7 colonies, or 7 nukes rather. Right, that's it. Now that's had the whole feed hole open, and you know, it's I reckon that's doing pretty well. But from memory, neither of those colonies, or I considered neither, would have survived on their own. Okay, I don't think I've got too much more to show you.
Roger, we've just got a few questions in from earlier, if you want to address them.
From who?
From earlier, when we're doing when you're doing the trickle. So a couple of comments around oxalic acid and whether it's what product you're using, what precautions you should take around, you know, not getting it on metal or wearing gloves, etc.
Well, yeah, you notice I didn't I didn't put gloves on. I don't normally wear gloves, but if you look over here, and I should have mentioned this, I've got a bowl of water and a towel. And the reason that I didn't show you was because I put the towel down there so I could remember to speak about it, and Martina told me to get it out because it was in her view. So it's Martina's fault, not mine. Sorry about that. Yes. Yeah. So I have taken precautions. If I'd have got anything on my hands, then yes, I would have washed.
And it was Apibioxal you were using, wasn't it?
Yes. Well, yeah. That's yeah. Yeah. I've been given the label, which is indoors. So the other colonies, when I do them, what I do is I'll put I'll put it down on all record sheets. But now I've seen that one there with eggs in. I don't know what the situation is below, but if eggs are at the top of the brood nest, I suspect that queen's just coming back into lay. Now, this is something that I've always disagreed with some of the so-called experts, because whenever I've taken colonies out of a free living situation, in my experience, it's generally the back half of November to the end of December that they have a brood break. But of course, I'm usually dealing with what one might term locally adapted bees. Now, if you've got what one might term exotics, Italians, Carniolans, Buckfast, those sort of things, then they may well plough straight through. I think that queen has just come back into lay simply because the eggs are at the top, and of course that's what they do in a natural situation.
Yeah.
Right. So, was that answered? Did that answer the question?
Yes, I think so.
We are just getting a bit of drizzle coming here, so we might have to knock it off. Okay, but carry on at the moment.
Yeah, quick question. Back to the nuke we were looking at. Shane from Ziggy's Bees. Shane's in Canada. He was observing that all the frames look the same, and they've gone through about half of the stores. So he's asking, have our temperatures been warmer than normal, or is that the norm for food consumption in our area?
You have to go through that again. Was it relevant to what he saw here, or his own bees?
So what are you seeing in the nuke we were looking at?
Oh, right, yeah. Well, of course, as I said, it was brought together with 2 nukes, so it was united. What I generally try and do is, once the queen is let's say used to all the bees, I generally at the end of the year tend to move things around just a little bit. So you've got 2 boxes, you're going to get food in both. So what I try and do is get the heavier food frames above. Okay, so it's replicating what they would do naturally, because I can't remember when they were done. Probably September or up until mid-October, I would think, which then is probably going to be a bit late. Now, the problem is bees will move food. They'll move uncapped stores quite readily, but they're very reluctant to move sealed stores. And this is one of the problems I have with the putting the super underneath. If you put sealed stores late, they won't usually move it up in my experience anyway. So yeah, okay. Right now, somebody from Canada, he's got probably a much different situation than we have, because he's probably working on 2 boxes. He may well have snow up to the roof of the second box at the moment. I don't know, but you know, he's probably got much different bees than we've got. Than we got here, probably much bigger colonies, and you know, it's doing. Of course, Canada's a big country, and it makes a difference where he is. I've only been to apiaries in 2 areas in Canada, and I don't think they were the coldest areas. So okay, right. What else you got?
That's it for questions this time, Roger.
Okay, yeah. Well, I expect everybody's shopping, aren't they?
Well, you're going to wish everyone a good Christmas.
Go on then. Yeah, I think I'm happy to carry on, but you know, it's getting a bit drizzly, and yeah, Martina just reminded me. There's a fly. Cool. Yeah, Martina just reminded me. Have you mentioned the varroa day?
I have been putting up on screen, yeah. So just to reiterate it there, you know, we've got real experts in the field of varroa resistance, from Professor Stephen Martin, Stephen Riley, the author of Honeybee Solution to Varroa, Joe Ibbotson, Rona Toft. Saturday the 15th February near Stratford. And you know, if you're quite far, why not come along as a group? I think.
Yeah, a share car. Yeah, we've got a wide variety of people. We've obviously got probably the world's leader scientifically in Stephen Martin. We've got amateur beekeepers. We've got commercial beekeepers. We've got people who keep eyes on or you know, look at free living colonies and see what they're up to. So there's a lot of information there. So if you do come, bring a thumping great notepad or your laptop.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, I think this is going to be the last one this year. We'll obviously pick up again in the new year, perhaps. And actually, I was quite pleased the way I went today. Especially this colony here. I just picked it up at random. And let me just have a little bit of a lift here. Oh, no pressure won't. I'll do it with the roof on. Unless you'd like to demonstrate, Martina. Crikey, that's heavy. You see, we've got a big colony here, Steve. Yeah, that's really heavy. And I didn't feed any of these bees at all. And this is one of the beauties of what one might term locally adapted bees, rather than these other things that just sit in a box waiting to be fed. Yeah. There is something else that I can show you. It's not very positive, I'm afraid. But this hive here. Yeah, this hive here. I'll probably get shot by some people, but I don't mind at all. I thought I'd leave that entirely for the whole summer. And it came through last winter quite strong. And these are commercial boxes, and the other two are national or British standard boxes, national boxes. Yeah, they're flying too. And I thought what I'd do was just to completely leave it during the summer. Because I do have some sympathy with the less invasive type beekeepers. I just thought, well, you know, as I do quite a bit of teaching, let's just have a look and see what happens. Unfortunately, they filled up these boxes. These are absolutely jam packed with honey, and unfortunately, towards the end of the year, the queen just gave up. So they're actually dead, which is why you see there's the entrance blocked up. But you won't be able to lift that, and that's all food that they brought in, and then they succumbed. Now, of course, not every colony you leave is going to be like that, because of course we have it with colonies that are managed on a more regular regime. But it just goes to show that if you do minimal intervention, things can still go wrong. So that's it. Okay. Well, I think I've more or less done everything. Got 4 Patterson hives if you want to quickly have a look at them. But no, let's leave them to next time, shall we? Okay. Right. Okay. I think that's all from me and Steve, and it is. We're going to get wet fairly soon, I think.
Okay. We'll let you go get warm, Roger.
Well, yeah, as you probably know, I don't have any heating on in my house. So, Steve could say that. Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. I won't mention the other bit in front of it, but okay, yeah, all right. That's all from me then. Okay, so goodbye, everyone, and I hope to see you in the new year. And thanks very much for watching.
Thanks, Roger.